All right, so I'm gonna take notes as well because I'm gonna make this a part of my course or part of my content creation strategy. Oh, maybe I'll open up Facebook on the side so I can kind of see how that looks like on this end as well. Oh, cool. Okay, so you can see it. All right. So live streaming, good to go. All right, perfect. All right, guys. So today I'm going to show you the how to break six figures in 6 steps. And oh, might want to record this as well. Okay, hit record. We're waiting for attendees to join for record. Oh, skip and start recording now. This meeting's being recorded. Okay. Oh crap, make sure that is good. Make sure I could hear myself on YouTube. So I have this called the Rode wireless mic, so the sound quality is a lot better. So, all right, let's do this. 6 simple steps to break six figures. Okay. All right. Take my notes right here. Where should I put this? Maybe under courses. Extend simple. All right. So what I typically do is I'll use ChatGPT to help me find like the copy to make it a little bit more interesting. So hey, oh you could do voice now, I think. Only on the phone. Um I'm creating a mini course uh for $100 on 6 steps to breaking six figures. Create an outline for me. Let me make it a little bit closer. Oh no, the mic did I accidentally? All right, one of my weaknesses, I gotta be a little bit more organized. So I just gotta clean off the desk a little bit. Okay, cool. What are these? Oh, get those notes, these post-its away. Okay, cool. Yeah, this is done. All right, let me move the mic to this side, a little bit more room. Okay. So I'm just using ChatGPT because it's a good tool to be able to just be efficient and it helps with the copywriting. So it's like pretty useful. Um, so I'm creating a mini course for $100 on 6 steps how to create an outline for me with exercises, and I'll add the stories from the hero's journey to share how I was able to break six figures. And I'm creating this because once that happened, a lot of things in my life shifted, and then give me statistics on what percentage of the world's population makes more than six figures salary in in the US and compared to the rest of the world for context. Okay, cool. So I have this note-taking tool called Fathom, which is pretty useful. It's basically a tool, and I'll screen share so I can kind of show you guys the process. So yeah, so everyone who's watching me on oh crap, that's gonna be annoying. Sometimes I connect Messenger to this, but it's all good. So what I do is so I can live stream because if you get past a certain amount of watch minutes on Facebook, you get monetized, so you can start making money from it. So I'm trying to build my hours to get up so I can get the next tier of monetization. So that's one of my strategies. And and also on YouTube, once you reach a certain amount, it's easier to get monetized as well. So that's why I'm doing this. But all right, so let me share my screen to provide the context for those of you who are on Facebook and want to follow along. Just go to my YouTube channel and then here, let me post it so people could see Davidson Hanks YouTube channel. Um, and then I can just post a link to it. There you go. Okay, cool. Posting it for anyone who wants to follow, for anyone who wants to follow along with the screen share. I'm also streaming live on my YouTube channel, and we'll be breaking down the steps to show you how I was able to break six figures. The detailed steps, the detailed story and mindset shift that allowed me to never look back. Okay, cool. All right. So just for context, in the art of storytelling, you always want to be able to like with anything, right? Like it's all in the storytelling. So the reason why I'm sharing my story in the hero's journey is just to give context to what life was like before when I wasn't able to break six figures, like how much money was I making. I'll give you a little bit like story, like the context, and then provide like what are the six steps, right? So, and then I'll outline each of these. So they'll probably take me 5 to 10 minutes on each of these steps, just to be a little bit more detailed. So it's not like just fluff, you know? So all right. So this is where I'm going to take my notes, and then ChatGPT is helpful because it gives me like sort of like a rough outline. So you don't have to think as much, right? But obviously you still have to break it down because ChatGPT will get you like halfway there, but you still have to spend the time to be able to like break it down even more. So, all right, this is the outline. So the first part is the overview. What's the purpose, the structure, and what are people expected to get, right? So I always want to start off with my story. So I graduated college. So this is like the outline. So I'm gonna have to record like a more concise version, but at least this will help me. I'm showing you guys. I'm sure just showing you guys like the process of being more comfortable with live streaming, being able to think in the mindset of how do I add value. Oh, it's kind of dark. Let me turn on the light a little bit more. Okay, cool. All right, better lighting, so that's good. So, what's the purpose, right? The purpose is, I think breaking six figures is actually not that impressive in New York City, right? So it all depends. Like if you're living in a place that has lower cost of living, then it's not really a big deal. Turn the light off. Why? Oh, I see. Oh, I see what you're saying. There's like a weird like, let me see if it's this light that's giving that glare. Oh, yeah, you're right. Good call, man. Good call. Wait, it still has a. That's weird. Oh, maybe it is this. Huh. What is that glare coming from? I don't even know. Wait, oh, okay, so that was it. All right. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Good looks. All right. Appreciate Dana. Yeah, he was just letting me know that it's off. Okay, cool. So let me look up online like how many percent, what percentage of the United States makes six figures. So roughly a third of Americans, according to this website, makes so, and about 15% of people earn between 100 to 150K. So about a third of Americans, is that accurate? Let me just see. What percentage? Okay, okay. This is all right. So the median out household income is $74,580 back in 22. So this is a census. But out of those you'll find, but this is household income, right? So that's a little bit different because if you are married, if you're living together with your spouse. So, but if you look at the population, 8% of the US population makes 100K an annual. Yeah, I guess even this is like, but it's interesting, right? Because it says like 18% of individuals earning 100K are living paycheck to paycheck. All right, I'm digressing a little bit. So let's just say this is accurate, and let's just say a third of Americans make six figures. So that's not that impressive, but still, it'll allow you to have a life that's a little bit more, you know, a little bit better. So, anyways, all right, back to the story. So, I graduated college in 2011, and when I first started, I was making like 20 to $30,000 a year. And honestly, it didn't grow that much, right? I made like, 30 something thousand, then 40,000, then 50,000, then 60,000. So over the course of those 6 years from 2011 to 2016, I wasn't even making that much more, right? It was like gradual. It's like, 8,000 more, 5,000 more, 6,000 more. And eventually when I got to 2018, I I started investing in my mindset and started reading a lot more books, right? So the first step that I would say is invest in yourself by reading books, attending seminars, um, hiring coaches, having a growth mindset. Right. So that's the first part. Um, yeah, so let me just put the context of asterisk. So a third of the household income is past six figures in America. Truth. Cool. Thanks, Dana. Appreciate your support, my brother. All right. So this is cool. So it gives a outline. So I'm gonna make my version of it because I can only speak to my truth. So I'm not gonna go and preach that, hey, I'm a financial literacy expert. By far, like that's not. But what I would do is, and you can literally ask ChatGPT, right? What are some of the roles and professions in our society? And I'll just say in America, because I live in America, in the United States, that that their average salary is over six figures. See, this is helpful, right? Because if you do want to make that type of money, it is helpful to look at data to a certain extent. Obviously, if you're a top performer, then yes. But the average will, so even if you coast, I hate to say coast, but even if you are just, you want to see what the market is willing to pay you, right? So you could be the best, I hate to use this as an example, but like you could be that best like dishwasher or the best cook, right? But most cooks, like on average, is not going to break six figures unless you're working at like a world-renowned Michelin star restaurant, right? But you want to be able to look at different jobs because a lot of people, you know, they, I think being resourceful is what I would say is like the second step to breaking six figures because nowadays with technology and there's Reddit and there's Quora, there's all these forums, there's a lot of data out there. There's so much information. You have to be able to leverage Google. You have to be able to figure out how to problem solve, right? So I'm gonna say being resourceful slash problem solving. Oh, let me make this bigger so you guys could see actually. Okay. Yeah. Being resourceful, problem solving. Um, oh crap. Let me just make sure the sound quality on YouTube is legit because sometimes the sound's not good. So I just want to make sure on my channel it looks good. If I'm gonna do like another 30 minutes of this, I want to make sure. It's working. All right. So okay, so the sound does work. Perfect. All right. So if you look at all these ChatGPT and ChatGPT, the data is like a little like a year and a half behind, but for the most part, it's still going to be pretty accurate, right? So according to ChatGPT, it's saying that these are the best industries to get into if you care about money. And I'm not saying money is everything, right? There's definitely a lot more important things in life, but if you want to live like a somewhat decent life, you want to be able to travel the world, buy a house, like things like that, like money does help, right? It's not gonna hurt having more money. So according to ChatGPT, healthcare, technology, engineering, business and finance, and law, and pharmacy and engineering. So these are the highest paid, and it depends on location, obviously. So let me analyze this, right? Having been someone who I nerd out about this stuff because, my curiosity always gets a hold of me. And there was a time earlier in my career where I would just go on Reddit and just read a lot of people posting anonymously like their salaries. And I was always curious because when you grow up poor, you're always thinking about money. So let me close the door. You're always thinking about money. So all right, let me analyze this and give you the pros and cons of each of this. And I'm by not any means not an expert, but I've spoken to enough people. I've had over 1,000 coffee chats. So my curiosity, I'm always asking like, hey, like, what do you like about your job? So at least I know people in each of these industries. So healthcare. So these are all doctors, right? Doctors, I would say it's a rough path. Like unless you actually care, like you're genuinely, if you're doing it for the money, like my friends that do it for the money, like they're not usually happy being doctors. But if you're doing it because like, hey, I love helping people, like I'm literally saving someone's life, then yeah, like that's a path for you. But you're also incurring like 300 that's to $500,000 worth of debt, right? And that is, and they're much older too. Like you're 30 years old by the time you like graduate and you're like, if you do fellowship, sometimes you're even older than that, right? So yeah, they can make 200, 300K, but you also have like 500,000 to $1 million in student loans if, you don't come from a wealthy family and you don't have, resources that are backing you up. So technology is, I would agree. I would say technology is probably like the second best way to make money, just because it's always changing. There's going to be a need for it. I mean, anyone who is alive can attest to in 2024 that technology is always going to be a big part of our lives. And then it mentions specifically IT project manager, cybersecurity analyst, software engineering, and data scientist. I would just add AI to it, right? Yeah, so software engineering, the people that are really good at it can make upwards of over 200K. Like when I worked at LinkedIn, our software engineers, not only do they make, if you work at Google, like if you're the top software engineer, you're making like 300 to 400K a year plus stock options plus amazing benefits. But you have to be pretty talented. Like those people have pretty high IQs. I have a few friends that are in that world and they share with me their stock options and I'm like, holy crap, that's a boatload of money. So, um, the data scientists, so the good thing about technology is that you don't even necessarily need to have a college degree. You just have to be super smart and be resourceful. Go on Udemy, go on LinkedIn Learning, Pluralsight, and there's all these websites like coding academies. And you only have to pay like $100 and you can get these certifications. But it's also difficult because you're also competing against some of the world's smartest people because it is some of the highest paid. I was an IT headhunter slash recruiter for context. So I would recruit, this is like back in 2016 and 17, but even back then, like I was recruiting for IT directors that were making like 130 to 150,000, and this is in the Philadelphia market. And if you're a really good software developer, you can make $180,000 even in the Philadelphia market where the cost of living is a little bit cheaper than New York City, for instance. And a cybersecurity analyst, obviously with Internet of Things and how much technology there is out there, there's always going to be a huge need for protecting our data, right? So engineering. So this is the one I know the least about, but engineers are some of the smartest people I know. They're always trying to figure if you're naturally like tinkering around and you're trying to like take things apart and put it back together, then that would be a good path for you. Um, I remember like reading back when the oil boom was like really big in certain parts of America, right? North Dakota. I was reading how there were these like 21-year-olds like or even 18-year-olds like didn't go to college and it was freezing cold temperature, so it definitely was not. There's pros and cons to everything, right? But there were people that were drilling for oil that were making, this is on Reddit, $100,000 to $180,000 a year. But it was crazy because because of the boom, they didn't have the infrastructure. So like paying rent was ridiculous for like a one bedroom, because there wasn't enough construction to be able to house all of the demand. You're paying a ridiculous amount of rent. But you know, you're not, there was nothing to do other than drink and get drunk. So they were saving like $100,000 and working like toughing it out in those crazy harsh conditions and saving it. So um business and finance. So this is the one I know most about being in sales and being in business. So I would say I would add sales to this list. So sales, obviously you can make a lot of money and it's the most potentially lucrative if you're good at business development, but it's also very stressful, right? Because speaking from experience, the highs are high and the lows are really low because you could be and if once you put in the work, like let's say you've been in sales for 10 years, like pretty solid business to business sales where you're selling to corporations, even at the lowest level, you're making like at least 100K, right? And that's after 10 years. Like when you're first starting, you're making like 50 to 90K, depending on how good you are and depending on what type of sales you get into, but that's like a whole nother video for another day. Um, but you're so sales is quite lucrative. Um, the next one is law. Yeah, so law is tough as well because it's very competitive. They're working insane hours. A lot of my lawyer friends are working like 60 to 80 hours a week, so that's absolutely insane. Like I would never be able to do that, work that many hours. All right. So, anyways, back to the actual 6 steps, just kind of giving you context about each of these industries. So, being resourceful, problem solving. So, all right. So, let's see what ChatGPT says. The second step they would say is skill acquisition and enhancement. So, yeah, so that's a good point. Skill development would be the next one. So, in my opinion, the best skills to acquire are emotional intelligence, right? Interpersonal skills, self-awareness. And so, if you break it down even more specifically, it's um empathy, active listening, empathy, active listening, um, curiosity, and which kind of goes back to our second point in being resourceful. Curiosity. All right. So I don't want to overcomplicate things, right? So I'll touch on each one of these. So emotional intelligence is a pretty broad term, but here, let me chat. How would you break down emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence. Let's see what the ChatGPT answer is, and then I'll give you what I think the answer is. So, just for context, I'm certified in this thing called EQI, which is a a certification that breaks down to like 15 different elements of what emotional intelligence is. So the first thing that ChatGPT says is self-awareness, which is being able to recognize your own emotions and how they affect your thoughts and behaviors. So the components of that is what are your strengths and weaknesses? So that is a really good point. so the that's point number four, which is understanding your strengths and weaknesses. This was a tough one for me. All right, so I'll give you all right, so the first step, investing in yourself by reading books. I'll give you like a little bit of context for each of these just to kind of give you some examples of where you could start if you don't even know where to go, right? So in reading books, I would argue that I mean, I'm biased, right? I would say nonfiction is probably where I would invest my time reading books. Like, yeah, you could read like, sexy, steamy romance novels, but like that's probably not going to help you make more money as much. Um, if I was to start off with three books, if you've never read How to Win Friends and Influence People is would be my first choice. Never Eat Alone would is really good too, and it's how to network, how to build community, how to be a hub and a super connector. Um, the third book I would read is Shoe Dog if you're into entrepreneurship and business. Like it's good storytelling, it's funny, it makes you cry the whole hero's journey. But it's Phil Knight, the guy who started Nike, and his journey on how he was able to become a billionaire. So, um, and then in terms of seminars, I would recommend Landmark Community, accomplishment coaching if you want to become a coach, next level training if you want to be able to be better at interpersonal skills and self-awareness wise. Um, and Tony Robbins if you're into making money. So those are the four communities I would invest in if you don't know where to start. And I have a lot of videos on my YouTube channel in regards to each of these. So ping me if you have any more questions in regards to this. Being resourceful and problem solving. So in my opinion, being resourceful is just not not asking people to do things for you, but how can I think it's important to learn how to ask for help, obviously, but I think it's even more important to be able to um, use Google, leverage Google, be able to look up things online and just be able to have a mentality where you can solve like how you're able to solve problems. So, that could be like you're looking up YouTube tutorials or you're able to figure out go on salary.com or an Indeed and you're able to do research, right? So that just requires not being lazy, honestly, is half of it. Using tools like Google, Quora, Reddit is a wealth of resources. And the fifth thing I would say is focus. Oh, in terms of skill development, the tools that you can use to build that would be Udemy, LinkedIn Learning, uh, courses, seminars. There's basically a resource for everything. Understanding your strengths and weaknesses. So the skills, so that could be personality tests, more specifically the Myers-Briggs type assessor. I would also say another good tool would be um, Strengths Finders is a good one. Strength Finders. There's the DIS assessment. There's an Enneagram. There's so many tools out there, and you can Google all this if you don't know what these are. All right, so focus, I would say. Oh, it's interesting. So it says social skills is the last one. Self-regulation. Oh, cool. So yeah, so how ChatGPT breaks it down is self-awareness, self-regulation. So self-regulation just means like you're able to adapt and you're not getting like frazzled, like you're able to understand your emotions and how to deal with pressure, how to deal with rejection, like if you've just been fired from a job or you just got rejected for whatever reason, or maybe you're interviewing and you're not getting the jobs that you want. That's what self-regulation means. And how you're able to get better at this is, I would say, therapy, coaching, um, doing self-development, personal development programs, could be like audiobooks, could be like meditation, like Wim Hof is a good resource, and motivation, empathy. All right, so back to monetization strategies. Okay. Oh, interesting. So it says networking and mentorship. So yeah, I would agree. I would say networking, mentorship. So I think networking is sometimes like frowned upon, like people think it's like a bad word, but really networking just means that you're able to um build community, you're able to put yourself out there, um, build community, connect people with other people. So what I do is like I always ask people like who you're looking to meet. I'm always like thinking, hey, this person would probably get along with this person, or I'll bring people together, and that's a very useful skill because when you're the hub, like when you're that social person that gets people, like you're adding value to society essentially. Um, hmm, adding value to society. Like you'll be able to work at any company that you want because you're helping people, so people want to help you back, right? Like, hate to say this, but humans are naturally they want something in return, right? Like most people, whether they know it or not, are inherent. Most human beings are inherently selfish. Like even people that help people, like I'm not gonna lie, I'm doing this because like it does feel good, right? And feel good is somewhat of a selfish thing if you really think about it, but it's at least I'm helping people, right? So it's, people can justify it. And we all have our humans all have some sort of either intrinsic or extrinsic motivation. So, all right, so now that we have the context of everything, I'm gonna do it in the format of the hero's journey. So let's this will tie it all back and this will all make sense. Hero's journey. Oh, so give me the outline for the hero's journey. Okay. So people who aren't familiar with what the hero's journey is, there's a famous book called Here The Hero with a Thousand Faces. And what that means is there's an archetype that has been lasting for the longest time, and it's you start with the ordinary world, right? So for people who are making less than six figures, the day in the life is like, oh man, I wish I can make more money. Like, why do a lot of my friends have all these like fancy cars and nice things, and we're always comparing ourselves to others, right? So in my case, I graduated from college, like my friends had it in finance or on the outside, because when you connect with people on LinkedIn, you're always like, oh man, this person got promoted to manager or director or all this stuff. And it's hard to not compare yourself with to others. I think as human beings, we're always trying to strive for more, we're trying to strive for greatness. So the call to adventure. So what made me want to make more money? Well, quite honestly, is because the pe I kept reading on Reddit and there were a lot of people that were talking about being in med device and pharmaceutical sales and technology sales that were posting like, hey, I made 160,000, made $180,000 a year. And I was like, holy crap, like that was a lot of money, especially back then. I would say, oh, that's weird. I would say this was back in 2011, 2014 when I was reading a lot of that stuff and I was like, huh. So I started interviewing people on the Reddit forums and asked them about their lives. Some of their titles were like sales engineers, solution architects, pre-sales engineers, the enterprise account executives. These are titles like enterprise account executive was what I did when I was at Udemy. So just to give you context, the ceiling there, if you're really good, is you can make close to $1 million a year. But most enterprise account executives make 200 to 300,000, right? If you're in a big tech. So that means like working at like an Amazon, a Google, Salesforce, LinkedIn, Facebook, any well-known, and even startups like, you're making 200 to $300,000 a year. So okay, so the refusal of the oh no, why does it do that? So, sometimes my it's weird, my lock overheats when I plug it into my laptop. It's strange. So that's the call to adventure, the refusal of the call. So what this means is um hesitates because of the fears and insecurities. So in my particular case, it's not easy break. I'm not gonna lie. Like I use the word six simple steps, but it's not easy to break six figures if at one point you're making $24,000 a year, right? To go from making 24,000, that's like a four times what you're used to making. And if you grew up poor and like let's say like you worked at the movie theaters as a cashier, or you're doing like working at Quiznos or Subways as an employee, not as an owner, obviously, right? It's gonna be hard to shift that much, but it is possible. Like when I worked at the movie theaters, yeah, like I was making like I think $11 an hour back in the day, right back in 2006 when I was in high school. So I'm saying this because I'm not gonna lie, like it's not easy to break through that mindset shift, but once you break through it, it makes it a lot easier because you have a proven track record and you just have the confidence, and you're able, once you break six figures, you never look back. Like it's easy to keep making that because you know your value, you know what jobs pay that well, and you just have the confidence to be able to have the skills to add value to society to be able to make that type of money, right? So my insecurities were just because like I grew up poor, and it when I was working at SHI as an inside sales account manager, everyone around me, most people were only making like 36,000 to like 45, the top, even like the top inside sales account managers are making like 60,000 max, right? And then obviously once you get promoted higher than that, but it was just I was still young at that time. So when I was 21 to 25, that's what everyone else was making. So the mentor, having a good mentor is helpful. And you don't literally have to have a mentor in front of you, although that is helpful. If you don't come from like a wealthy family or background and you don't have a lot of these people right in front of you, one, you can reach out to people, which is what I did, using LinkedIn, using Facebook, using tools. Make sure you do it in a respectful way, and you want to be able to put yourself out there. So that could be posting on social media, could be just asking people who, maybe you have friends that have a nice house and you're like, hey, like, I'm curious, like, what did you do to get this? So I was always curious about that. Crossing that threshold. So this is this is when you pass the threshold and you never look back. So in my particular case, once I became an account executive, it was a lot easier to break six figures because like every account executive is making six figures, right? And sales is not easy, like you're under a lot of constant pressure. You're put into sometimes very uncomfortable situation if you're not used to rejection. And but once you make that type of money, it's great because you get to go to really cool, get to go to Vegas, you get to travel the world, go to all these conferences, you have an expense budget, so you can wine and dine and take your clients out and build relationships with them. So there's a lot of good things that come from making six figures. The tests, the enemies, and the allies. So there's a lot of tests. There's going to be times where you're questioning yourself, because I think it's easy for all of us that live an easier life, right? Like we all naturally humans take the path of least resistance. So Yeah, I can watch Netflix all day. And don't get me wrong, I think sometimes it's fine to do that as long as you're not escaping from something, right? But if you really want to break six figures, like you're gonna have to take a look at your habits and see like, am I watching too much TV? Am I not taking care of my health? Am I gaining a lot of weight? Am I not putting myself out there? Am I too afraid to pick up the phone and call people, right? One of the simplest ways to break six figures is literally just pick up the phone and call people, because the more relationships you have, the more knowledge you know, the more likely you'll be able to be successful. Um, okay, so approach the innermost cave. So I'll share the rest of this in the context of the Davidson journey, so then it's applicable and it's less theoretical. So the innermost cave, this is when I would say the greatest challenge that I encountered is, in spending money and in investing in myself, whether it's hiring a coach, hiring some of the best coaches ever that aren't cheap, right? The traditional, like, people like, oh, you need to save money, you can't be putting stuff on credit card. Dude, I'm actually grateful for credit cards because I don't have a wealthy, like, mom and dad that can just bail me out you know, like some other people. Yeah, my mom has helped me for sure, but I don't have like the safety net of, I can just crash at my parents' house whenever I want to. Like I literally had to figure it out, right? And be able to be resourceful in that sense. So the biggest struggle for me is like, okay, I'm investing in a $16,000 like year-long coaching program. Like, is that ultimately worth it? Hell yeah. Because when I was back in 2017, on January 17, when I put my credit card down, I was only making $78,000 that at that time, right? But then at the end of that year, I was making 138,000. So was it a coincidence that I jumped 50,000 in 1 year? No, it's because that year I suffered, I went through the ringer. I really had to deal with a lot of my insecurities and I had to put myself out there. Was it worth it? Yeah, I would say so. So the ordeal is the hero confronts death and faces their deepest fear, like a metamorphosis. So my deepest fear was realizing that I had to get over my fear of being liked, and that actually was that meant that I actually had to I had to get people to be able to make a decision. So help people who are indecisive, which is a lot of people, is most of society, and that's why people aren't able to make it to the next level. And get people to make a decision, and that was incredibly uncomfortable for me, but it was such a valuable skill. So that's why sales, business development, which essentially means getting people to take this decisive action, is one of the most rewarded industries, because that takes skill, that takes empathy, self-awareness, self-regulation, social awareness, problem solving, a lot of these very valuable skills. The reward. So the reward is I gain a powerful or secret knowledge. So that's the trick, right? There is no secret. The secret is putting yourself out there. In my case, is failing, getting rejected from 100 different jobs is fucking painful, right? Just excuse my language, but it sucks to get rejected 100 times. No matter how much you get used to it, it still sucks, right? But because I'm getting more used to rejection and I'm putting myself out there a lot more, six figures like is, a drop in the bucket for me, because of the skills that I'm building will eventually get me to seven figures, right? That's why I'm doing these things. That's why I'm practicing. Okay, how can I communicate? How can I deliver value, help as many people as possible? And this is one of the ways I'm able to give back to the community. The resurrection. So this is the final test when everything's at stake. Um, what I hear from this is, oh, did I do this one yet? Oh, the road back. So I didn't do this one yet. So we return to the ordinary world, but so it's like one last challenge, right? And you can argue that the hero's journey never ends because there's always going to be more and more challenges. But even right now, I would say I'm sort of in the cycle because the funny thing about the hero's journey is like you keep going up and down in terms of what are some of the challenges that you face. So, um, one of the challenges I'm facing right now is just like I've invested a lot of money in my business, and when you invest in buying a business, like when I bought a franchise, like I'm investing money in it, so now I have debt, right? But the being able to learn the skills of being a business owner, running a business, being a managing partner, like these are skills that are invaluable that will help me yield dividends in my life, right? So yeah, initially you're taking out a business loan, you're taking out business credit cards, you're paying for insurance, all this stuff, training, development, all the back end. But one of my business partner, Larry, he made millions of dollars as a partner at Deloitte, right? And those skills are so valuable, being able to empower people. He asks really good questions. He has a lot of curiosity. He has strong relationships, business acumen, right? He travels the world. So these are all very valuable skills. So lastly, returning with the elixir. So this is you come home and you bring a knowledge. So that's why I'm creating this for you guys. So I'm going to be doing a lot more of these because I want to be able to help people. There's a lot of people who are struggling with how to break six figures and how to land a job. So you'll see a lot more YouTube lives, Facebook lives, LinkedIn lives in regards to some of these very valuable skills. Let me know what you enjoyed the most about this. Let me know what other content you want to see from me. Thanks, everyone. And I hope you all have an amazing day. And yeah, you'll see a lot more of these. Cheers.